want to create a monster collector game. Honestly, I think everyone does. I mean, if you grew up playing things like Pokémon or Digimon or Neopets or any of the other collections of colorful critter-catching games, you probably at one point were creating your own off-brand versions of the characters and trying to pass it off as your own little creation. And I actually did, when I was a kid, make a semi-functional, on-paper Pokémon ripoff that had nearly 700 of my own very unoriginal little critters. But now I'm looking back at them and I'm wondering if there was a way for me to kind of relive that fun of trying to rebuild a game from scratch based on things that I love, like Pokémon, but also now incorporating things that I enjoy now as an adult, or other things that I enjoyed as a kid. Because back then, it didn't occur to me that you could add new features to something to make it less of a ripoff, and I sort of just rebuilt the entire Pokémon formula brick by brick, even if it wasn't something I was super interested in. So rather than make it a direct clone, I'd like to create an idea for something that would draw more on my own interests. So, rather than focusing on battles, I would like to make it more open and sandboxy with your own ideas of what you'd like to add. So, personally, I think it'd be fun to have pageants, like Pokemon contests in some of the games. I would spend hours on that in black and white. But I'm thinking also on being able to breed your monsters and create more unique appearances for them. I'd like a lot of maybe business ownership options that have to do with them, and maybe even character customization or little cute outfits for your critters. And I want a big focus on building your relationship and understanding each monster that you collect. So rather than collecting a huge amount of them, I'm kind of going more for quality rather than quantity. Because back when I would play Pokemon, I would catch a lot of Pokemon and then never look at them again. I'd like it to be more special when you collect a monster. I want you to spend a lot of time learning about them and bonding with them. So focusing a lot on things that I personally am interested in, such as animal husbandry and pet care, breeding and genetics, and of course I would like to make a world that's fun to explore. I do have an idea for a world that's sort of based on my home state of Virginia. A lot of the monsters themselves and the places are going to be inspired by the area. I think the actual game itself would be best as a video game, but considering I don't have any coding experience at the time of recording this, I think it might be more simple to make a almost tabletop RPG version, almost akin to what I made as a kid on paper, but something a little bit more sensible. For now, I'm mostly just creating fun little ideas. Now, what's the best idea to start with? The starter monsters. So rather than making 3, I decided to up it to 5, probably just to avoid the Pokemon ripoff accusations, but also because I thought it would be fun to include wind and earth as elements. So we're gonna go through my design process with each creature. The first one I created was Kersemper, who is mostly based on the cardinal, which is Virginia's state bird. I figured all of these are going to be based on state symbols of Virginia. I had a lot of sketches made beforehand, so I sort of just ripped the sketch, copy-pasted that in there, and was using that as my inspiration. Later on I'd kind of use it as the base itself, so I could just draw over it. Now, Kersemper was kind of difficult to create. Personality-wise, I'd like it to resemble a cardinal that I actually have living nearby, who has been attacking my car windows and mirrors. Kersemper's name is of course from cardinal and air, but also words temper, as in he's angry, and the motto of Virginia, which is, I'm probably saying this wrong, Sic Semper Tyrannis, which is thus always to tyrants. And I thought it'd be funny to kind of just pull some of that out for this bird. Since I think of all the state symbols, the most memorable is always the state bird. Kersemper itself is considered the bold or the brave one of the group. Very territorial and possessive, and it tries to scare off anything that encroaches on its belongings. It's known to attack mirrors and thinks of itself as the strongest possible threat. It bonds closely with its master and would die to protect them. Kersember will also have a unique trait that the others don't have. While Kersember is blue and red as its main color scheme, the female color scheme is actually going to be more brown and orange. Cardinals. This will be a trend of a lot of critters I'm making, since animal biology or husbandry or genetics are going to be considered an important part of this. It would make the most sense for some with the obvious changes between the male and female variety. It would be really interesting and realistic. Now, as you can see, this first design, I really didn't like it very much, so you can actually see me go over it again and entirely redesign it from the top down. Instead of making it so big and angry, I shrunk the entire thing because the design philosophy that I'm sticking with is going to be more geared towards cute. I'd rather every monster look like a friend first, and a cool creature second, or maybe even third. Honestly, if I don't feel a little bit derpy, I'm not sure if they're quite in the style that I'm aiming for. And I think that's part of the important thing, because I'm not trying to make Pokemon or Digimon or Neopets. I'm trying to make my own little creatures. And so having a unique style and focusing on a certain aesthetic that I personally enjoy is more important to me than trying to match any pre-existing styles. I'm really happy with how the new version of Kersember came out. I think he's adorable, and I think that the color palette being more simple and the designs being more simple make it way easier to look at as well. The second one is also one that I redesigned in the middle of it. Flopetal is the dogwood critter, of course based on our state flower and our state tree, the dogwood. Flopetal, of course, its name comes from flower or Florida, not the state Florida, the scientific name for dogwood, which is Cornus Florida. Flop, mostly because it has floppy ears, and petal and pet, of course, because it is a flower dog. Now, Flopetal is the friendliest, it's very calm and gentle, and is a perfect beginner pet, especially for a small child. Its fur is actually tiny little leaves, so it's hypoallergenic, unless of course you're allergic to pollen, in which case it might be worse. Flopetal are fiercely loyal, and despite being relaxed with their owners and the family, they will viciously attack anything that they deem as a threat. So they tend to be pretty good guards as well. This first version, of course, it looks like my full-sized sheepdog, but I shrunk it down a little bit for the new design, of course, trying to make it cuter. The first version I liked it. I didn't see anything wrong with it. The problem just was that it didn't seem like it had enough going on. It was just very simple. And I'd like it to be a little bit more memorable. And so giving it a bit more of a cheerful, cutesy personality shown off in its design, I think helped a lot. Of course, next we have Pyrubo, who is the red salamander critter, I guess. I guess I'm calling them critters for the time being. But the next critter is Pyrubo. He is the red salamander. Red salamander was only recently named a state animal of Virginia, but while I was researching it for this, I actually discovered that it was lobbied for by a group of kids called the Salamander Savers, which is so cute. They wanted to raise awareness for the less known species in Virginia, and since salamanders spend a lot of time underground, a lot of people don't really realize that we have a lot of native salamanders. I've never even seen a salamander in the wild before. I didn't even realize there were so many living so close. I wanted to carry on their mission of showing off this lovely little creature, so of course I made it a lovely big creature. Pyrubo, its name is from pyre and ruber, because the scientific name of the red salamander is Pseudotriton ruber. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but just assume if I say any scientific name, I'm probably mispronouncing it. Pyrubo is proud and independent, and it loves to show off for others. It's always all in for every activity, regardless of if it actually understands what's going on. Pyrubo's black spots secrete a mucus that can catch fire at will, and any black part of Pyrubo's skin can ignite. Pyrubo isn't a good planner, but is very enthusiastic. Its strength and abilities make it a force to be reckoned with. The two responses to seeing a Pyrubo are glee and dread, with little in between. It's great to have a spontaneous combustion animal with the strength to body slam a door down and the critical thinking skills of a walnut. This isn't a beginner pet, not because it's not unfriendly, but because it is a handful. I feel like Pyrubo is a really great example of my design philosophy for these critters. I want you, if you are thinking critically about it, to understand how much muscle and strength might be in that thing, but also look at it and think, head empty, no thoughts. The next critter we have is Truda, who's based on the brook trout, which is our state freshwater fish. We also have a state saltwater fish, but the brook trout was originally just our state fish until they introduced, I believe it was the striped salmon as our saltwater fish. So I wanted to kind of represent the OG rather than the newer option. Truda's name, of course, is from Truta, which is the scientific name. Regardless of its age, Truda has an innocent, infant-like personality. It sees its master as a mother or a father most of the time, and it's very obedient, but due to its awkward shape, it still fails to carry out complex orders. Truda can swim at high speeds due to its ability to manipulate the water flow. Truda can bond with anything, whether it be a human, another critter, or even a toy. They are docile and don't immediately fear threats, instead needing to see the attacker actually causing damage for them to connect the dots. Truda is slightly more intelligent than Pyrubo, but it has slightly less agency, so they kind of even out. It depends on if you want a big dumb fiery baby or a big dumb fishy baby. Finally, we have the critter called Dirtulus. Of course, its name is from dirt, Sertulus, and hiss. It's based on the eastern garter snake, which is our state snake here. Dirtulus is entirely filled with wet clay and dirt, rather than blood and organs. When it rests in the sun, the clay-like compound in its body bakes, and also begins to bake its last meal, helping it to digest. It turns the compound inside its body to a hard ridge of rock on its back, and the rock club on its tail. So the compound inside of it will rise through the body and form its rocky spine. Dirtulus is a coward, and slithers away at the first sign of trouble. If cornered, it will spray its muddy insides at its attacker, blinding them. You wouldn't think something with so many defense options would be so cowardly, but not very many of its defense options involve attacking. It could maybe hit you with that tail, but they usually just shake the tail like a rattle to scare you away. Dirtulus also has some difference between the male and the female options, but usually just means that the female is slightly bigger, which mirrors real snakes. Now we have them, 5 new creatures for my creature collecting game. I do have a lot of great features in mind and ideas for the game upcoming, but of course my main goal is to slowly build ideas and concepts as I go through this series, and if you guys have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. Is to maybe take it town by town and fill out everything that lives in that town and slowly build from there. For now, just let me know which of these starters you would pick in the comments and what you're excited to see coming up. If you have been to or you live in Virginia and you have something on your mind that you find iconic, let me know so I can include it. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day.